All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming out. It seems that we under-predicted the amount of space we would need to cover this topic. We'll let them know next year. So this either means that last year you came to my presentation and I wasn't that disappointing, or you haven't seen me before. So anyway, I appreciate you all for coming out. So we're going to talk about LTI 1 and LTI 2 and building a platform in Canvas. And we got a half hour tonight, and so I'm going to try to go fairly high level on the pieces of technology that we've added over the last year and what we're planning on adding over the next year. I will also be at the Hack Night tonight, so if you have more questions, want to get in deeper on some of these concepts, you're welcome to come and meet up with me there, me or one of these guys over here, Carl and Nathan. They're on the platform team with me in Structure, and this is what we do. So we are really excited to see this many people coming out and excited about what we're doing. All right, so just about me a little bit. My name is Brad Humphrey. I've been working for Instructure for about 3 years. About two years of that I've been working with the platform team on building out LTI and making Canvas a better platform. I love platforms and extensibility in Canvas. I love giving you guys the tools you need to make Canvas do what you want it to do. And this is something where I push a lot internally at Instructure too, that we kind of eat our own dog food on this, that we're using these same standards when we're building out a lot of the cool custom functionality. One of the big wins over the last year was Commons. I don't know how many of you use Commons, but Commons is built on this same technology. So it's an external app that runs in Canvas looking native via LTI. Another thing about me, just an interesting point, I love games. I love tabletop games. I'll be here on Thursday night for the game night helping to run that event. So if you like fun and like games, come out and enjoy that with us. All right, so what do we do on the platform team? Just a real quick overview. We like to say we're enabling awesomeness. And here's just a quick highlight of some of the stuff that we try to do with the standards and try to do with our extensibility in Canvas. So one thing is just extending Canvas. We want to allow people to add the functionality that they need or that they want that's custom to them. We love discovering the latest tech. We love pushing the standards. We're always asking the question, how can we make this easier? How can we make this better? How can we make it so that more people can use this and consume this? We overcome traditional boundaries. One of the things that I really like about working with the platform team is we're involved with IMS, the standards organization that produced LTI and some other standards. And one of the fun things is every quarter we get to go to their conferences where we have work groups and we basically work on the standards. And the reason I say overcoming traditional boundaries is because one of the things that we get to do there is we work with other LMSs a lot of times that we look at as our competitors that we're fighting with here at Instructure. But when we go to these events, we're all allies and we're all trying to work together to make something that really works well. And then, like I said before, making Canvas yours, customizing it so it can do what you want it to do. So that's kind of our mission. This is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to accomplish through these standards. And hopefully we're doing an okay job at it. Just to give you some feedback on how LTI is used and utilized in Canvas, this was a study we did early this year. But in K-12, about 13% of courses had teacher-installed LTI tools. And in K-12, 97% of institutions had some sort of LTI tool installed. And just to let you know, these numbers did not include tools that were common for us and Structure as an organization to install. These were tools that they had come up with. In higher education, we had 10.7% of courses had teacher-installed tools, and 95% of institutions had LTI tools installed. So this was really encouraging when we saw this. People are using this stuff. And obviously that's true with all of you here. So where are we now? What have we worked on over the last year? This is just a high-level thing. We'll go through each of these. LTI 2, content item. LTI 2 is a new version of the LTI standard that one of the biggest wins that it brings is the ability to do services, standardized services across LMSs. Content item is a mechanism that many of you probably use. This is a new version of it. We've pushed this through LTI. It's known historically as resource selection, but this is what allows users of the system to go and select content and bring it back into Canvas. Placements are what we have been doing to enable LTI in more places in Canvas. Variable expansions allow you to get the data you need out of Canvas. Logout service was our first attempt at an LTI service, LTI style service. So we'll go through each of these. LTI 2, this is in beta on production Canvas today. We are not certified officially yet. We're still going back and forth with IMS about what needs to be in the certification. But we're getting really close. Most of the major pieces of functionality are all certified. With LTI 2, some of the challenges we had were we wanted LTI 2 to be backwards compatible. And because we added a lot to LTI 1, pushing the standard beyond its limits, basically, LTI 2, we've had to kind of take those same concepts and figure out, hey, how are we going to push these into LTI 2? And actually, that's been made a lot of really interesting discussions as we've talked with the LTI 2 group and worked with them on, hey, this is the stuff we found really useful in LTI. Are we finding a place for that in LTI 2? So LTI 2, one of the big win right out of the gate is it improves the tool management experience. So right now, in basic LTI, the kind of standard way of installing a tool is to get a configuration URL or some configuration XML, give that to your user, give them a key and a secret, and they have to plug that all into Canvas to get the tool to work. And we've made that a little bit better with our App Center stuff where the configuration XML stuff comes across automatically while you're using App Center. But still, they have to know the key and secret. And the tool management experience of LTI 2 is basically they give the system a registration URL, or in the case of App Center, ultimately what they'll be able to do is just click on a tool, and it will do a launch to that tool provider's interface, where they can ask them to log in, they can ask them for credentials, they can ask them to configure the tool, and then at the end of that experience, there is a server-to-server post from the tool provider to the tool consumer that installs the tool. And that takes care of the key and secret, and it does a lot of magic as far as informing the tool provider up front what the tool consumer is capable of. So it's really a kind of a simple step forward, but it improves the tool management experience a lot in LTI. And I'll get into a little bit what we're working on in the future that we're going to leverage this to solve some other interesting problems we've run into with LTI. It makes new services easier. It makes new services really possible. So one of the big ways that people use LTI, especially in Canvas, when they're trying to get a really deep, rich, integrated experience, is they use LTI, and then as soon as the launch happens, they go back to Canvas, and they get an API token, and they start doing custom API calls against the Canvas API so they can do really deep, integrated things. One of the things that LTI 2 provides the framework for is to make it so that you don't have to do that token management anymore for the Canvas APIs. Ultimately, what we'd like to do is we'd like to expose the important pieces of our API in a way that can be accessed from the tool, giving the tool permissions to go and get that data. And that way, you're sidestepping the whole, I need to go and get a user's token, I need to go and get an account admin's token, like some potentially scary stuff. LTI 2 says, hey, when I install the tool, it has access to these things, and it can do that stuff, and it doesn't need to do token management and things like that. And so like services are the big thing that we're really excited about here, and the registration service is just the first one of those. And then it's going to enable better security and privacy controls, and this is a big deal to us too. We want people to know what they're installing when they install an LTI tool. We want people to be able to know what they're granting access to, and we want to be able to scope the access of that tool to that thing or to that security set. And LTI 2, part of this registration process is building a contract that says, hey, here's what I'm going to do, here's what I'm going to request, here's what I'm going to need. And we can then display that to an admin and say, hey, are you happy to grant this permission level to that LTI tool? Right now, you kind of do that because you could go inspect the XML, but like, who does that, right? And so this is going to give a lot more visibility into what tools are doing, what they're asking for, and what they have access to. Content item. So like I said, this is historically known as resource selection. This is something we've had in Canvas for as long as I've been working on the team. And it's a really cool mechanism for pulling in external content and embedding it directly in Canvas. Resource selection is something we took to IMS and said, hey, this is awesome. We should make a standard out of it. And over the last year, we've worked with them to do that. The standard for content item is on IMS's website. It's in public draft. They're waiting for a few more implementations. And I think with ours coming out this summer, they'll be able to pull it out of public draft. Anyway, so it's been adopted by IMS as a standard. It's implemented in Canvas today. We were playing with it yesterday on production, and it's still got some holes in it. So it's pretty fresh. But like content item actually gives you a lot of power in how you embed this stuff. One of the really cool things that we're actually working on this week is embedding LTI launches in the rich text editor. And specifically where we came at this from was we wanted to be able to embed video content in the RCE. And we wanted to be able to embed multiple videos. And we wanted to do it in a way kind of like YouTube embeds now in Canvas Rich Content Editor, where it gives you the image, you click on it, and it launches the video. And so what we've done with Content Item, what we're able to do with Content Item is embed an LTI launch in an iframe that is hidden behind a thumbnail. And when a user clicks it, they do the LTI launch and they get their external content, just like is a common video workflow. And that's just one of the things that Content Item provides as far as mechanisms for embedding content. So yeah, that's new. Doesn't work yet. It should be out in the next 2 Canvas releases from now. So we're excited about that. That's the thumbnail launches. We're going to allow you to embed multiple resources at once via Content Item. So when a teacher's adding items to their modules, potentially they will be able to return a content item that has 7 or 8 links all at once. So they could select a package from the tool provider, and bam, they get their course content created like that. The other cool thing we did with this is that content can be passed both ways. So Canvas, historically with resource selection, has consumed content from external systems. But for Commons, and I mentioned Commons earlier, what we decided to do was, well, we need to pass content from Canvas to Commons so that it can save it. And so we enabled via LTI this content item mechanism where Canvas actually sends the content to the tool provider, which they can then consume and do things with it on their side. And this worked for Commons, and hopefully we'll find other use cases of that going forward. Placements. Here are some new placements that we added. If you're familiar with some of our existing placements, there's cool things like account navigation, course navigation, user navigation, module items, assignments, other things. But here's some new ones. We've added new placements for assignment leak selection. So in the past, if you wanted to have an LTI tool that created module items, for instance, it always appeared in your account as both an assignment selector and a module item selector. And with this change, you can now say, no, I'm actually only creating assignments, or no, I'm actually creating module items. Be more specific and clean up the interface in Canvas. Tool configuration is an LTI launch that will show up right after you install the tool in Canvas tool management section. And when you click on that, it does an LTI launch that says, hey, I want to configure this tool. And so an admin or a teacher, after they install the tool, can go in and set it up to configure it how they need to. This is kind of a poor man's LTI2 for configuring the things. Course sub-navigations is, we've added more navigation elements, so like the right side navigation. You can add tools to these menu gear icons, both course sub-navigation and menu gear icons related to us sending, I guess specifically the menu gear icons related to us sending content to Commons. So when you're looking at a file or a module item or whatever in Canvas and you have edit permissions, you can click the gear and you'll see an LTI launch that will launch with the information about the item that you're launching about. So that's what the gear icons are for. You could edit items potentially remotely or whatever, or just consume them. And then migration selection is LTI tools can be configured to pull in common cartridge content into a course on the migrations page as a new type of migration. So placements, variable expansion. So we have 60 plus expansions. This allows you to get a lot of data without needing to go to the API. Historically, people just use the public privacy setting, which used to give you everything. Now it doesn't. It gives you what it used to give you. But we have continued to add different bits of data, and you can request that stuff. And it's important to us that you request specifically what you're looking for, because once again, then we can show it to the admins, the teachers, and hey, they're requesting this information about your users. But yeah, there's 60 plus expansions. They're growing quickly. We add more. We've added most of these this year, so it seems like we add more every week or couple weeks. Yep, there's that. Logout service. So this was our first LTI-based service, and what it does is something really simple. It lets you, as an LTI tool provider, say, hey, when the user logs out of Canvas, let me know. And you just register a callback URL. You hit this API, and Canvas, when the user logs out of Canvas, they'll hit that URL that you provided them so that you can be aware that they logged out. Okay, so that's what we've done in the last year or so. What are we doing next? Re-registration, which is improvements on the registration service for LTI2. Rich Outcomes, which is an LTI2 service that allows you to return grades and create assignments. LTI Security and Privacy, which I've talked about a little. A roster service that allows you to get information about users' courses. And we're working with Caliper there's a couple things there. So we're working on integrating with Caliper. If any of you are aware, that's an analytics standard that IMS produces. But we're also working on integrations between LTI and Caliper so that an LTI tool could be given information to be able to post analytics data to Caliper. Re-registration. So one of the things that we've run into a lot as Instructure using these tools is that once you install a tool, it's kind of gone. And if you need to update it because Instructure or Canvas added new features, you need to request new features, or you want to update your configuration to show up in one of these new placements or whatever, it's kind of difficult. We have manual processes basically that go through the API and try to update these things. And we can do that because we have special power access tokens when we live at Instructure. But if you're a tool provider if you're a tool provider that is installing across institutions and you want to be able to take advantage of new stuff, update new stuff, update your tool to use new stuff when Canvas updates, there's not really a good way to do this. And re-registration is going to help us solve that problem. So basically there's going to be a service similar to the registration service that you can hit after you've installed that basically requests an update of permissions and the ability to take advantage of new stuff. And it will work very similar to apps on your phone when they're like, hey, we need to update, we need these new permissions. You'll send that request, and when the admin logs in, they'll be notified, and they'll be like, hey, these new apps are updated. Do you want to use the new version? And then they can accept it, and the registration process finishes. It's really cool, and it's a really great way of managing tools across Canvas instances. It also allows users to easily update or reinstall a tool. So even with LTI1 right now, if you want to update your configuration, probably a lot of you know this. What do? You delete the tool, and you reinstall the tool. And it's kind of annoying, and it can break things. Usually we're pretty good about being robust about that, but there's issues with that. And re-registration will basically be, hey, there's a button on the tool that you click it, and it goes and re-registers the tool, and it sends you through the registration process again. So both cool things. Rich Outcomes. Rich Outcomes. So many of you, I assume, use the outcome service to post grades back to the basic outcome service to post grades back to Canvas. Rich Outcomes takes this a step further and allows you to manage assignments, your assignments, via an LTI standardized API. And so it allows creation and management of assignments. It can do grading. With this, you'll potentially be able to launch an assignment that actually represents a set of assignments in the Canvas gradebook and post grades back to each of them individually as users finish them, so they don't have to leave your workflow, your external tool workflow, to do those assignments and that grading. We can do even more with content item. You could potentially, as a part of a content item, create an outcome that is managed by you, an assignment that's managed by you, and later on you can post grades to it. And it opens the door for some deeper integration, so new placements in SpeedGrader, assignment group, and gradebook, where you could launch for an entire assignment. You could launch for a single submission. You could, in SpeedGrader, potentially with this, you could do launches out to the assignment so the teacher can review what's in the external system when they're grading in Canvas. So some really cool stuff. LTI security and privacy. So like I said, we care about privacy and we care about security. And we want to make sure people know, especially as we increase the power that tools have to do these deep integrations, we want to make sure people know what they're signing up for. And so there's going to be messaging about what permissions is requested by a tool. IMS is working on standards for how we can inform tools about how sensitive data potentially should be used. So the idea of, sure, you can have access to this, but you shouldn't transmit it to another system, and just kind of some messaging around that. And then there will be better controls around who can use, see, or install tools. And we're excited about this because we would like to allow users to install tools that follow them around their Canvas account so they can customize their experience. So right now, LTI is very class-centric or organization-centric, where you're customizing that Canvas experience for everyone who's using Canvas on your behalf. But we would like to enable users to, say, install a Microsoft OneDrive app, where they can now submit their homework in any class that they go to via their OneDrive, or share documents with other users via that tool. And so something where they could, this is something we get really excited about, something where users can actually customize their own experience and empower themselves in their learning. But in order to do that, we need organizations to be able to say, hey, this is what you're allowed to do, this is what you're not, or potentially whitelist what types of things can be installed. So. The roster service. So a lot of people are excited about a roster service, an LTI service that you can go and get users, groups, enrollments for courses, groups, and potentially accounts, depending on the types of tools people are installing. So, all right. So that's our plan. Those are the things we're working on. We know that we need to get better about messaging a lot of these new pieces of technology that we develop. But here are a lot of good ways to get a hold of us. If you have questions, if you want to get deeper into some of these concepts, or if you want to start using some of the new pieces of technology that we're building. We love people to come and give us feedback, especially as we're building stuff, because we can make it better for you. Anyway, mailing list and IRC, these are both referenced on instructure.github.io. Instructure.github.io is a great resource. We're looking at adding a much more detailed LTI documentation, LTI specific for Canvas documentation to this website also. eduappcenter.com, I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but this is where we host a listing of apps. If you have an app that you think you'd like to share with the world, add it here. This also has some tools around XML configuration for LTI 1, and hopefully we'll add some LTI 2 support to this in the future, where you might get some of the LTI 2 features for free without even moving to LTI 2, or only supporting a subset of what it does. Community.canvaslms.com is a new Jive community. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. Get on here, Canvas Developers Group. There's a lot of good stuff. Someone showed me yesterday just a bunch of code examples that people have been adding around how to use a lot of these things. So this is a great place to collaborate. For those of you who'd like to see our latest stuff in action, you can check out this lti-tool-provider-example.herokuapp.com. We'll see if I destroy our free Heroku instance with that. But no, this is something we use for QAing all of our new things, so it's really not pretty, but it has a lot of the functionality that we are implementing in Canvas, and you can get in and use this to see kind of some of the web interactions. imsglobal.org/LTI has the actual standard. If you want to go read those documentations, good luck. It's funny, we joke because over the last 2 years, I spent a lot of time on that website, and I feel like I've developed a skill for reading IMS documentation, which is kind of a sad thing. But no, I mean, that's where the standard is, so that's where it's documented. And then if you're interested in grabbing this presentation so you can see what we've got, I got a shortened URL there. I'll give you guys time to take any notes on that slide you want, but I mean, that's it. Questions? Let me see how much time I got. 7 minutes.
Two quick questions. You mentioned about the tool improvement process where you could configure the settings and things like that.
Yep.
Does that take care of the single sign-on authentication settings and other things that you can configure, or it's all presumed that we'll all be on OAuth and you don't have to worry about it?
So, the tool config. So the question is, what does the tool configuration launch do? It's like a regular LTI launch, and so if you've implemented LTI authentication into your tool provider, you get that authentication for free with this configuration launch. And so it would launch them into your tool using LTI authentication, and so it's going to tell you who they are, what roles they have, and whatever else. And it's going to be signed via OAuth 1. And then you can do whatever you want as far. Oh, and it gives you the key and secret, so you know which tool they're trying to configure. So this is a external tool configuration screen where the external tool would provide that interface with how they wanted to configure it. So.
The second question is, Well, LTI2 functions the same way as LTI1, wherein you don't have to go to the root level admin to enable a tool.
Absolutely.
Can that be? Okay.
Yeah, so the question was, will LTI2 also allow teachers to install tools at a course level, is kind of what you're asking. You don't have to go to the account level to install tools in LTI2. You get to install them at the course level, and like I said, we'd like to add it so that you could install it at a user level. So,
is it on your roadmap or even your long-term radar to support the LTI settings service?
I'm blanking out.
You look confused. It allows you to store small amounts of data from the
the
tool
settings.
provider.
Yeah, tool settings. It's part of the LTI2. You have to have it to certify for LTI2. So
that's a yes.
So yeah, we support it. We support it. It's cool. It lets you on the fly add custom variables for individual launches that you will get on future launches. So yeah, that's a thing. And honestly, that's very important in my mind for Common Cartridge transfers of tools, because we'll be able to pull tool settings out, stick them in a Common Cartridge, and then when you import that, you get to keep those settings that you saved for that launch in the new course, which is something that's really difficult in LTI right now.
I've written a lot of code that's standalone code that accesses the Canvas API, but I know nothing technically about LTI. Where's a good place to start?
So where's a good place to start learning LTI? So we have, no, don't start there. So we have some documentation on api.instructure.com. We have some documentation on eduappcenter.com about LTI. And like I said, we're planning on adding more documentation over the next, I'd say 6 months for how you use LTI with Canvas. I'm not sure exactly where that lands. In the short term, it's going to land on our instructure.github.io site. So those are all good places to start and to try to get your feet wet. When you have questions, seriously, come to IRC, come to the mailing list. We try to be really responsive on there in answering these types of questions. And if they're basic LTI questions that a lot of the community understands already, the community is really good about answering those types of questions, providing examples, and helping you get unstuck. So, I mean, that's pretty real time. So IRC, you're less guaranteed to get an answer, but you'll get a faster answer if you do. The mailing list, a lot of times, people will come back with, this is how you do it. So. Do we have an option to allow LTI to open into a separate window instead of an iframe? That depends on where it's embedded. So yes, in some places. For main navigation elements, no. The only way to do that today would be to display in the frame after it launches a button that launched them to a new window. And we actually have leveraged that for some things like the redirect tool. But I mean, places like module items and stuff, there's built-in support for that. You can construct LTI. You can actually construct LTI links that will launch in Canvas in a full screen mode. So I mean, if you want to link directly to an LTI launch in some content somewhere, for instance, you can have that open in full screen or in a new window. And content item actually allows for this natively. Like, how do you want this thing to show up? Do you want it to be a new window? Do you want it to be full screen? And it allows you to specify those things when you use content item to create LTI content.
First of all, I really like giving the user control of their content and posting it into Instructure. So that's really, really good. Does that include allowing the user to specify permissions as to who or the individuals or roles in the Canvas site that the material is being posted for? So
that's a good question. The question, I think, is with the idea of user-installed tools, who controls what information can be given, what content can be shared, that kind of thing. And that's where the permissions come on. Like, this is all really foggy. This is stuff that we really are excited about and want to do and are laying the framework for, but I don't have any really specific answers on how it's going to work. That being said, I imagine it will work something like in the LTI tool, you'll be able to, as the LTI tool owner, the provider, you'll be able to say, hey, here's the roles, here's the permissions on what I show in my tool. As far as what the tool has access to, it'll at maximum be scoped to what the user can do in Canvas. So unless we come up with some mechanism for like whitelisting permissions for a certain set of tool. So
Probably have time for one more question, guys.
I got one over here.
It's a lot of pressure. So I probably should just grab it later, Brad. But are you looking at doing anything with making Canvas an LTI tool provider itself?
We have talked about it. Probably, I mean, this is totally just my opinion. But, so I know those are famous last words. But probably you will never see Canvas as a whole as an LTI provider, at least not in the like medium term. What I am encouraged and we might see going forward is components of Canvas being LTI-able. So like a quizzes LTI app that does Canvas quizzes but could be embedded somewhere else or something like that.
I'm thinking of like an enrollment process where someone registers for a course, they LTI launch over, they're in it. No SIS integration, nothing.
Yeah.
Just automatically adds and everything.
I don't know.
That's-
I mean,
yeah.
maybe. So that's the best I can give you on that. Anyway, thank you all for coming. If you have more questions, you want to come talk to me, or either of these guys, come to Hack Night tonight, and we'll be there all night. So.